into a lot of this stuff that someone's stealing that. I don't buy into a lot of that stuff. You still got to play the game. Back in our glory days with San Francisco as well as the Cowboys, you know darn well Emmitt Smith is getting the ball. You know darn well Mike Irvin is running the comeback. You know darn well Jay Novacek is going to do what he's going to do, and you couldn't stop it. It is what it is. Stop it.
So basically, Michigan is under fire. University of Michigan Wolverines and John Harbaugh, because there was a guy,
Jim Harbaugh.
Jim. I said what I said.
It's just John.
His brother, Baltimore.
Rolling with the Ravens, man.
Jim. We have the same name.
Knees high with the flock.
And there was a guy on his staff, on his coaching staff, who is under fire for going out and stealing signs, videotaping signs of other teams that they're going to play in that season, this season, last season as well. And basically, he would fly out to all of these games, man, and videotape, all of these signs. Now, a couple of issues with that, and the intricacies of it is, okay, so this guy only gets paid $50,000 a year. Okay, so they're saying he did it on his own volition, but $50K a year, and you're going to every single college football game. Not only that, you're buying 3 tickets per game because he's not going to all of the games. Sometimes he's hiring staff members, like lower tier staff,
subcontracting out
to go to these games. He has to buy the tickets and he has to pay them to go and videotape these signs and then bring them back. Now, okay, so you have that, and then
that goes to the issue of, was this guy operating as like a lone wolf, or was he doing this under the direction of Jim Harbaugh?
He couldn't have been that.
But that's the point.
Right,
that's the significance of the point you're making. This guy's
of
limited financial resources, and it's implausible to believe that he's flying around to all these games and doing all this stuff on his own dime and theoretically his own initiative. There's no way that Harbaugh or people high up in that staff weren't funding this, aware that it was going on. And apparently there's a rule against this.
Yes.
For that reason. In-game sign stealing or whatever, that's essentially fair game. If you can pick up, and the reality is a lot of teams, college, maybe less with pro, they're not huddling as much. A lot of stuff's done at the line of scrimmage, and a lot of stuff is done by signals from the sideline. If you go to a college football game, you'll see like literally like poster boards with like weird stuff on it. It could be like a Pokemon character. And that's how communication occurs in these games. And so when you're in the game, in the moment, you could have an assistant trying to pick off these signs or draw some correlation between the signals and the play that's run, and that's fair game. But if you're going to go to a game that your team's not participating in, record this, and then try and connect the dots, that's apparently a violation of NCAA or college football rules. But I tend to go down the route that Dion went. And again, this is, if we're better, it's not going to matter. If we show up and play, you sending a guy around to a bunch of other football games should not beat us. And while it's probably a violation and should be penalized and discouraged, I'm not going to say that Michigan's success is overly reliant on this. They've recruited well, they've built a strong roster, and they're reaping the benefits of that.
I disagree with both of you guys, man.
All right.
Who am I to disagree with?
Me.
With you and Dion. Your college football team is undefeated, and Dion is a heralded NFL superstar and now college football coach. But my thing is, number one, it's illegal. It's illegal for a reason. If it wasn't a thing or a big huge deal, then it would just be okay for anyone to do it. So there has to be a competitive advantage. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a rule. Now, how big of a competitive advantage? He's saying, hey, you guys knew Emmitt was getting the ball. You guys knew when we had to go throw it to 88. But my thing is, you're tracking the signs. So from week to week, because the teams they switch up their signs. So that's why it's okay in game, but not okay to track over the course of a season, because in game those same signs may not be used again to 3, 4, 5 games down the road. It's so random. But when you're able to track game by game, you can know sort of their cadence and whatever when they like to use these signs and what these signs are going to mean. And it's a huge difference to know Emmett is getting the ball, or to know if Emmett is definitely getting the ball on a sweep right, counter left, power middle. Like, that's a huge difference, and your defense can take an advantage of that. Like, that's I don't know. I was surprised to hear him just say that in generalities. Maybe he was just maybe he was just doing that, speaking in generalities. But that's a huge difference to know. Yeah, I know it's first down and Dallas Cowboys run on first downs 95% of the time. Well, but if I know he's going counter left, I can create my defense to be able to stop a counter left. And now, you still have to have the players.
But I want to say a couple things on that point. I think that the teams in regular conventional scouting and film review have a tremendous amount of data in that already. Tendencies, what stuff's run from various formations and personnel groupings and stuff like that. You can be in a situation where your data almost becomes overwhelming to the point of being misleading or not useful. Mm-hmm. There's a capacity to absorb data and do something with it, and there's a capacity to absorb data that it's just data for data's sake. And I don't know where that line is. And I don't know what conclusions Michigan's been able to draw from this. But there's not it's not a 1 + 2 = 3 automatically. There can be issues where you can almost get lost in the sauce and mislead yourself by almost having too much data to sort through. Mm-hmm. And again, you're talking about literally, 20, 15 seconds to process this. A signal goes up, you have personnel on the field, and then you're trying to say, 3 weeks ago at Iowa, they, this meant it was going to be, read option left to the short side of the field. And you've got to convey that to the players. They've got to get aligned and play. And there's a lot to be said. Like players play freer and better when they're not overloaded with data and they're not overthinking what they're doing. And so while it is a violation and should be punished, I do think that there's not a direct, clean correlation to doing this type of illegal activity and any significant success on the field because of that.
Okay, so what do you say about Belichick? Bill Belichick for the New England Patriots. He got dinged for this. The Spygate. This was essentially the same thing. Like, he thought it was a good enough competitive advantage to do this, and that's my thing. My thing is not whether it's actually helping teams and coaches and players. My thing is, it must be, if you're going out of your way to do this. Like, it must be a competitive advantage.
I just don't
That's
think
my thing.
I don't think in those terms that must be. I look at it still as like a question. It's like, okay, how productive has this been? And I was always skeptical with I was always skeptical with Spygate. Like how much value did they actually get out of that? Yeah, they got caught doing something. They got punished. It was a bad look. But, did it actually make that much of a difference?
I think so.
That question was never, to me, clear.
I don't know.
And maybe you'd have to sit down and have beers with Belichick to know.
Yeah.
I don't I look at it. It's unknown to me. I'm just saying that, it's not a complete mystery, but I'd be curious to say.
Yeah, same thing with the flat footballs and all of this and that. But and people, and you had professional football players. Well, it doesn't make a difference. You still have to catch it. You still have to hold it. It's negative 10 degrees. You still have to. But I'm saying, and my whole thing is same thing. Well, if it's no competitive advantage, why the fuck are they doing it? like you know what I mean? Play with regular footballs then. If it's not a fucking advantage, why are you deflating the footballs for 40%? It must be. That's the. I know you said. I understand your point is how much and da da da.
Yeah.
But why? Why do this if you don't know for sure that it's giving your team a competitive advantage? And you're doing it over the course of seasons. This is not something you just try it out for a couple of weeks. Let's see. You're doing this for a couple of years. This means something. You know what I mean?
I mean,
A couple of years.
I'm not going to
Same
go
thing with
much
Bill.
more than it could have. Like again, I don't, I mean, like, again, what does the data show us? Like, that's the thing.
It would never, I guess, and like you said, I think the coach will be able to tell you more than the data, right? Like you said, if you had a couple of beers with Bill, he'd be able to tell you.
Well, I mean, as like you also gotta put this in the context. Like, all of our sports are becoming more and more analytical, based driven, analytics analysis and such. Now, there's a lot of coaches, and there's a debate how what's usable and what's not. And we can have all this stuff, but like, do I rely on this completely, or is there still a point when like, yeah, I'm aware of the analytics, it helps me make an informed decision, but I don't always follow it. I mean, there's and everybody, like every staff, every coach is kind of doing things to their own comfort level. Now, part of that is probably older school people or people that are more reluctant to change and embrace something completely new. But part of it is also just a thing. Part of it could also be, like human ego to a degree. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to like want to coach a football game where every decision is basically based on analytical data, and I just happen to be the guy that delivers that decision versus I'm actually engaged in doing something.
Yeah.
And that's that human ego element, and I hopefully that's not where we're going, where we just and I guess that's where like your artificial intelligence stuff goes, where it's like we're true. Just out of the deal and just like have the AI data
take over.
And that's really, I mean, if that goes to the core of the AI stuff, is that our human capacity to take in information, process it, and convert it to decision making is way slower than an AI dynamic.
Right.
And that's kind of where we are. Like, okay, they could take in, who knows, 100, double the data, 3 times the data, and make these decisions in seconds versus a human is just not going to be able to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.